What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American, here today to react and learn about American things that are actually British. Apparently, we are just living a lie here in the United States because there are things that us Americans think of as really, really American. But they actually originated in Britain. And I really want to find out what these things are. This stuff that has infiltrated our American society that actually came from Britain. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
Here are 6 American things that are actually British.
Okay. A1 steak sauce? Are you kidding me? A1 steak sauce? They weren't kidding. This is like A1 steak sauce. For one thing, do you have the A1 steak sauce in Britain? Is that even a thing? This is like, well, yeah, one of the most American things I can think of.
Something else that's popular on this side of the pond is sauce to go with your meat. In addition to ketchup and barbecue, I often encounter one bottle that initially appeared the very definition of American patriotism.
Right. Well, the way he's talking, it actually sounds like he had never seen A1 steak sauce until he came to the United States. So this isn't even like a popular sauce in Britain. Yet this was wait, how does that work? This was made in Britain, but it's popular here in America?
It was red, white, and blue. The letter A obviously stood for America, and number 1 must have been shorthand for greatest country in the world.
I have no idea why this steak sauce is called A1 or what that stands for, but yeah, this is it, A1 steak sauce. Very, very, very well known in America.
Quite honestly, few things more visibly screamed welcome to America than A1 steak sauce. I thought a bald eagle was going to burst out. But here's the thing, any bald eagle worth its salt would know that A1 steak sauce actually originated in England. But wait, Lawrence, did you just say that A1 originated in England? Yes, Lawrence, and that's very much in addition to the road of the same name.
What? How is this possible? This sauce originated in England. So, is A1 steak sauce popular in England? I'm a little confused.
Its origins can be traced precisely to a small, modest home in London called Buckingham Palace. That's right, it was a building recognised the world over in which a chef by the name of Henderson William Brand unveiled the original sauce to none other than King George IV. Now,
wait, what? This is actually really fascinating, combined with being really shocking. I didn't think the history of like steak sauce would actually be interesting. Not only was this not created in America, despite being outrageously popular here, it was created in London at Buckingham Palace for royalty, basically.
Now, as an aside, in Ireland last year, I personally bore witness to that monarch's footprints. They were quite small.
Oh, wow.
The sauce went on commercial sale in 1831 under the ownership of Brand's company, Brand & Co. However, by 1871, the brand was under different ownership, and at this time, it acquired the name A1. Contrary to popular belief, the name has nothing to do with the king exclaiming A1, as in magnificent. Instead, it was inspired by an insurance standard at Lloyd's of London that denoted a good ship. As its popularity grew...
What? Wait, what? The A1 comes from an insurance term for a good ship? I'm so confused, but all I know is this steak sauce is really, really good, really popular here, and somehow has the strangest British history imaginable.
So did its distribution. By 1906, it was sold in the United States, where it would later acquire the name A1 steak sauce and become a mainstay of the nation's condiments. By the late 1970s, amid overwhelming competition from HP sauce and Daddy's brown sauce, A1 all but disappeared from UK shelves.
Oh. So in the UK, you have different sauces for meat, maybe some steak sauces. He mentioned a couple that I've never even heard of. There must be steak sauce that's popular in Britain, And the A1 steak sauce basically couldn't really compete that well in Britain for very long. And it somehow just became ingrained and entrenched in American culture because that A1 steak sauce is like the only steak sauce I even know of. I think that goes for most Americans. That's pretty amazing. And yes, I do think of A1 steak sauce as something that's really, really like American. Something about it going on steak. What's a more American than a juicy steak? Actually, sounds like a lot of people around the world enjoy a good steak, but still, it's just how our American brains think of it, I guess. This is good stuff, actually. Graduation March? Graduation March? What exactly are we talking about? Are we taught like marching out during your graduation or like the song that plays during graduation, maybe?
When I first moved to the United States, it just happened to be at a time when my wife's sister was graduating from what Americans refer to as college. As a new immigrant, I had way less agency back then, and I was forced to attend her graduation. I was happy to be there. In addition to chucking their graduate caps in the air and seemingly having no limitation on the number of family they could invite, American students would form a procession to a very familiar piece of music. Often known here as either Pomp and Circumstance or the Graduation March, its melody was identical to what we in Britain know as Land of Hope and Glory. On a side...
Oh, wow. Really? That is the graduation song. Yeah, that's just... I think every American recognizes this tune. I couldn't have really given it a name. I would just have said, oh, that's the song that they play during graduation. Yeah, the graduation song.
Hope and Glory. On a side...
Wow, so this has a different name in Britain. This is a song that is known. This is an interesting one because I do associate this with like my American graduation memories and all that, but I wouldn't have necessarily assumed that this song was made in America because it is just like an instrumental song. It could have been made anywhere. Although, I don't know, part of me does associate it with, like, American culture. So this one's kind of, like, in the middle.
I know, I was personally gutted that the music did not herald the arrival of Randy Macho Man Savage, himself synonymous with the tune. But even the greatest of American wrestlers couldn't change the fact that this music is very, 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 very English. It was composed by...
Now, that is something I had absolutely no idea. No idea, and it's actually strange to think about. Like, maybe from my American perspective. That all of us Americans, graduations that are happening every year, all the time, every single time Americans graduate, like, high school or college or whatever, we're all marching or walking and graduating to an English piece of music. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just like... I think that'd be genuinely surprising for most Americans to learn that.
By Sir Edward Elgar as part of his Pomp and Circumstance marches, hence why Americans call it Pomp and Circumstance. It wasn't written with graduations in mind, or WrestleMania 7. In fact, it wasn't written with much in mind at all until Edward VII, who had medium-sized feet, suggested it be part of his coronation ode with words and everything. After that, it generally became...
This is called Land of Hope and Glory. Okay.
Became a patriotic English tune, to the extent that people often consider it a stronger candidate for our national anthem than God Save the King. It's...
Are you kidding me? Now that's unbelievable to me. I had no idea. I might not have assumed this song was like made in America or the most American thing ever, but we do associate it with our American graduation ceremonies, that's for sure. And we have fond memories of this song. I would never, ever have imagined that this, like, had such an important, like, part in British culture. And it was such a well-known song in Britain. And according to him, it could have been, like, the British national anthem, maybe. Like, that's such a deep British meaning for it to be like the American graduation song, and for us to have no idea about that. Like, what?
Self repackaged in America as My Country 'Tis of Thee. So how did a perceived symbol of English exceptionalism become America's de facto graduation march?
Yeah.
Well, that too was the work of Mr. Mustache himself, Edward Elgar. In 1905, after receiving an honorary doctorate from Yale University, Elgar performed a selection of his own works at the ceremony, including Pomp and Circumstance March No. 1. It was so well received that the music reached other universities and a tradition was born.
This all started at Yale? Was that the writer of the song? The creator of the song? Like, the English fellow graduated Yale and played his own song, and then it just was such a hit! And it just spread, and to this day, I mean, that is the graduation song in America. If you ask Americans to say, what is that? That's the graduation song. What? Wow. This is actually really fascinating stuff. I'm not even that upset that these super American things, or what I thought were super American things, I'm not even upset that they're actually of British origin, because it's so fascinating. Halloween? Really? So, I don't even know how to think about this. So this might be kind of a silly question, maybe a dumb question, if you will, for lack of a better word. But you celebrate Halloween in Britain, I assume. Halloween is really, really, like, very much celebrated here in America. People go crazy for it. People love it. The kids love it. Adults in America love Halloween. People go all out with decorating their house and parties and dressing up. It's not just for kids here. It's also for adults. It's a whole thing. And it's really, really, like, people love Halloween in America. I don't know what British people, like, think about Halloween, if you celebrate it, if you are this intense about it. But I can't imagine another country going as, like, full out as Americans do for Halloween. So for that reason, I am a little bit surprised that this was invented in Britain and not here in America, because I think we go really over the top with this.
Well, it's almost that time of year again. In fact, on nearby porches, I've been seeing plastic dead people for the better part of a month. So I figured I might as well get in on the act. You see, in the United States, Halloween has long felt like a much larger deal than it did in Britain.
Okay, perfect. I'm really glad that he actually clarified that, because I don't know how big a deal it is in Britain. All I know is that it feels like a big deal here in America.
It is America's enthusiasm for the occasion, in fact, that leads many of us to think of it as American.
Yeah.
This feeling is strengthened further by the fact that many modern US Halloween traditions have spread to other countries. But it was two of those other countries that brought Halloween to the United States in the first place.
Really?
Ireland and Scotland. You see, the origins of Halloween are very often linked to the Gaelic festival Samhain, which is not pronounced Samhain, but knowing my luck probably isn't pronounced Samhain either. Starting in the 9th century, it would be observed in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man from October 31st to November 1st, with...
What? This is like, we're getting like a history lesson today, apparently. But it's very interesting. Halloween started in Ireland and Scotland. If I had guessed, I might have guessed that it was an American creation. I actually probably would have.
Samhain, also the Irish language name for November. The holiday has seen all sorts of twists and turns since then, but in the interest of time, let's skip forward by 1,000 years. For it was during the 18th and 19th centuries that something happened to bring Halloween to a young United States.
Oh?
Mass Irish and Scottish immigration. And before Uncle Toby chimes in with, didn't English colonists recognise All Hallows Eve before then? Yes, to some degree, but any such celebrations were likely muted owing to puritanical opposition.
Wow, there you go. Like, Halloween was definitely a British thing that British immigrants actually brought to the United States. And then, over time, we became obsessed with it and crazy about Halloween. Man, This really surprises me. I think all of these things so far. The Halloween, the steak sauce, the graduation song, all of this stuff, like, this is pretty surprising to me. This would really shock most Americans, too.
The Scots and the Irish brought with them several traditions that would eventually catch on in the United States, including jack-o'-lanterns. Historically, these would have been made with turnips. However, immigrants to America soon realized that native pumpkin presented a softer and larger surface on which to carve a face. And
it's so interesting, because these are traditions that you learn, like, as a little American child growing up. You learn, like, carving pumpkins and decorating the house and trick-or-treating, and yeah, you do tend to think, like, yeah, this is like a really American thing. But I don't know, maybe we're kind of locked in our own little American bubble here. I wasn't even sure if Halloween was, like, celebrated in other parts of the world, actually.
Speaking of large things with cracks in them, that brings us on to this.
What? Wait, what? The Liberty Bell? The Liberty Bell is not American? It's British? The Liberty Bell, like, it has the word liberty in it, for crying out loud. How much more American can you get? This is like one of the symbols of the United States, the Liberty Bell. I have to admit, I don't really know the history of it, or maybe I would have known. How is this British? This really is, like, considered a symbol of America, actually. Huh.
When you think of the United States, you think of 3 words. Freedom, freedom, and freedom, and often in that exact order.
Oh, yes.
And you don't have to live here to realize the extent to which freedom is precisely the rallying cry of so many of its symbols. You've got the Statue of Liberty, the Freedom Tower, Independence Hall.
Yeah.
A short walk from that last one, you'll find the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
And just as Lady Liberty was constructed across the pond, the same is true of this £2,000 instrument, something I discovered before visiting it. Now, granted, the idea of navigating tight security just to see a slightly damaged symbol of America's independence from the British might not sound like every Brit's cup of tea.
Yes, how? How can this be an American symbol of independence from Britain, and yet this is a British thing?
I had an obscurely sentimental reason for doing so. You see, in the irony to end all ironies, the Liberty Bell was cast not in Philadelphia, but London, specifically at the Whitechapel Bell Foundry. Now, in case you didn't know, Whitechapel was also the setting of my last English address before moving to America.
The bell was created in Britain. Who knew? I sure didn't.
In fact, I lived half a mile from where both Big Ben and the Liberty Bell were made. So that just leaves one question. Why wasn't it cast in the United States?
Yeah.
Surely having it commissioned to the country from which you've just gained your independence is completely and utterly a little bit weird. And that would be true, wherein...
That's the perfect way to put it. It's not like the end of the world. It's not like, how dare this be British made? It's just, like, kind of strange, given the symbolism of it.
Not for one thing. The Liberty Bell was delivered a good 24 years before the Revolutionary War. In fact, it was ordered by the city to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Charter of Privileges, a constitution that granted powers to the British colonists in Pennsylvania.
Oh, this bell was purchased well before the American Revolution, before our independence from Great Britain. So, ordering the bell back then wasn't weird. It wasn't weird ordering it from Britain. It was normal.
The Charter's chief architect was William Penn, himself an Englishman who founded the province of Pennsylvania. But not all would go smoothly. Famously, of course, the bell cracked during its first test in Philadelphia, making us, the British, look like idiots. And after the Revolution, it completed its heel turn by ringing during the reading of the Declaration of Independence, allegedly. Which makes you wonder, is that when somebody first uttered the phrase, "Let freedom ring"?
Oh!
No, that phrase is first attributed to the song, "My Country 'Tis of Thee."
I would have believed it. What is apple pie? No. See, this isn't okay. This is not okay, because we have a saying. We have a saying about apple pie. And the saying is, oh, that is as American as apple pie. if you're pointing at a bald eagle or some A1 steak sauce and you're like, oh yeah, that's American as apple pie. Apple pie is literally the standard, the metric from which we measure Americanism. I don't know how or why that happened. But apple pie is literally, it's like a joke almost. It's like a meme or something. It's like apple pie is American. It's a really American thing. And you're here to tell me it's not, that it's British. Is that actually right? Is it?
In the US, when something is considered uniquely American, you might hear the phrase, it's as American as apple pie.
Yeah.
But having looked deeper into this, I can't help but feel that such a proclamation might come as a shock to apple pies. And that's because for centuries they graced several European countries before arriving in the New World.
You know, like, if I think about it, I wouldn't have necessarily assumed apple pie was created in America. It could have been created anywhere. You know, it's pie. Everyone was making pie hundreds of years ago. It's just that there's a saying, American is apple pie. I feel like I've been lied to or something. That really led me, and I think all Americans, to believe that apple pie was made, like created. How do they even know who made the first apple pie? Are they sure about this?
Chief among these was the place of their origin, England. In fact, a recipe for apple pies can be found in an English cookbook all the way back in the 1300s when our language was still complete gibberish.
Oh. I guess that's how they can know.
As you've probably guessed, they were brought to North America by colonists in the 17th century. What you might not know is that that same sentence can also be applied to apple trees, which did not exist in America before that time.
Oh my god. I mean, if you think about this a bit, it all does make sense that a lot of stuff was brought to the United States from British people who immigrated from Great Britain to the American colonies way back in the day, before the founding of the United States of America. So it does make sense, like, that history would work out this way.
But it wouldn't be till the 18th century that apple pie's popularity began to surge in a newly independent United States. In 1796, a recipe for apple pie was featured in America's first cookbook, American Cookery by Amelia Simmons.
I didn't know that. The first American cookbook. I didn't know about this.
Thereafter, it would become a symbol of American prosperity.
Yeah.
In fact, to this day, it is famously eaten on the 4th of July when Americans come together to celebrate their independence from the very country that gave them apple pie in the first...
I don't know. It's weird now. Now I think it's weird. Apple pie is weird. I'm always going to think this now.
Place. And you begin to wonder whether this might have been by design, especially since they repeated the trick with another pie on another holiday.
Pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie. Well, you know, okay, fine. Like, apple pie, that's the real, like, that's the real mind bender. That will explode my American brain. Pumpkin pie, it's like, yeah, I guess this is kind of an American thing. Pumpkin pie is not, you don't find this all that often in America. Like, some families make this. Okay, I can accept this one. It's really the apple pie that is kind of messing with me.
That's right. Pumpkin pie, a dessert widely associated with America's Thanksgiving, was first conceived in England. And I know what you're thinking.
Fine.
Ooh, Lawrence, you told us that Britain didn't even have pumpkins until receiving them from North America. Yes, I did. But just as America sent a jazzed up version of Halloween back to Europe, we did the same to you with pumpkins. Sort of. You see, if you give my homeland anything that might conceivably fit inside a pie, we will find a way to make that happen. And so it was with pumpkin, or as it was known in 17th century England, Pompion, as recorded in Shakespeare's Merry Wives of Windsor. And yes, I did just mentally rename the graduation march Pompion Circumstance. Leave me alone. One of the earliest known recipes for Pompion pie can be found in the English cookbook The Gentlewoman's Companion by Hannah Woolley.
So they just, okay, they have all these, like, old cookbooks and recipes that, like, prove this stuff was made in Britain. Fine. It's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. No. Okay. And I think with that, we are finally at the end. Pumpkin pie. Oh, this was actually a really well done video. I gotta give it credit. Credit to Lost in the Pond. I gotta give this a like, even though I did like this video. It just kind of shocked me and rattled my American spirit a bit, but I'll recover. Some of these things, like, seriously, the A1 steak sauce, oh my god, I forgot about some of this. Graduation song, Halloween, the Liberty Bell. Oh, it gets worse as you go along. The Liberty Bell, then pumpkin pie, and apple pie. Pretty shocking stuff, actually. Genuinely shocking stuff. These are many things that are definitely considered like Americana, American culture, bottled up. Literally, steak sauce in a bottle is very American. This was eye-opening. This was surprising. This one's going to keep me up at night for a while, but that's okay. I did have fun learning about these things, as shocking as it is. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of these American things that are actually British things. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and British culture and learning things about Britain for the first time, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.